What if I told you your car is quietly ticking toward a major failure, and you won't know until it's too late? The truth is, every professional mechanic knows there's a hidden checklist they start ticking off once a vehicle hits 100,000 miles. But here's the kicker. They rarely tell you about it unless something breaks. Why? Because what you don't know can cost you thousands and keep their shops busy. But today, I'm exposing all of it. And habit 6? That's the one even dealership techs try to hide. Stick with me until the end. You'll never treat your 100K mile car the same way again. 1. Timing belt or chain. The silent ticking time bomb. The timing belt or chain is the most crucial maintenance item that nearly every seasoned mechanic checks or secretly worries about once your car hits the 100K mark. If it fails, it can destroy your engine in seconds, leading to a full rebuild that could cost $2,000 to $6,000. Mechanics know the factory interval often says 90K to 105K miles, but the truth is, wear starts earlier, especially if your driving conditions include stop-and-go traffic, high heat, or long idling. If your car uses a rubber timing belt, this is not a maybe, it's a must-do job. Chains are more durable but not invincible. A mechanic will quietly inspect the timing cover area for oil leaks or tensioner noise. If they see cracks or hear a faint rattle, they're already preparing the quote. But they might not bring it up unless you ask, especially if you're on a tight budget. Pro tip: ask specifically about your timing system at 90K, 100K miles. Preventive replacement saves your engine and your wallet. 2. Transmission service. What dealers never push until it's too late. Your transmission is the second most expensive component in your vehicle, and it's often the first to show signs of wear after 100,000 miles. Yet, most service writers won't mention it. Why? Because lifetime fluid is a dangerous myth pushed by manufacturers to reduce maintenance claims. What mechanics really do? They'll sniff the transmission fluid, inspect the color, and sometimes pull the pan behind closed doors. Burnt-smelling fluid, gritty texture, dark color. These are red flags that your transmission is nearing early failure. At 100K, many mechanics quietly flush or replace fluid, especially in high-mileage Toyota, Honda, or GM vehicles. But they rarely offer it unless you complain about rough shifting. Why? Because they fear backlash from customers who think, if it ain't broke, and don't fix it. Pro tip: flush or replace your transmission fluid every 40,000, 60,000 miles, regardless of what your manual says. Preventing a rebuild saves thousands. 3. Fuel system cleaning. The unspoken injector secret. By 100,000 miles, your fuel injectors and intake valves have carbon buildup that reduces power, gas mileage, and throttle response. The average driver notices sluggish acceleration and assumes the engine is just getting old. But smart mechanics know this is a solvable issue. What they won't always tell you: they use a fuel injector cleaning machine with a pressurized solution. It's not the $50 bottle you pour into the gas tank. It's a full system clean that costs around $150 to $250 and makes a night and day difference. Why don't they recommend it outright? Because some shops save this as an upsell item when customers complain about power loss. Meanwhile, your MPG and engine health are slowly tanking. Pro tip: ask for a professional fuel injector cleaning at 100K. Pair it with a new fuel filter if serviceable. You'll restore lost power and avoid misfire issues. 4. Spark plugs and ignition coils. Your engine's forgotten soldiers. Most modern cars come with iridium spark plugs that last up to 100,000 miles. But guess what? By then, they're often worn out, misfiring occasionally, or causing rough idles. Mechanics know that if one plug is weak, others aren't far behind. But they also know that recommending a full ignition service, especially coils and plugs, can run $300 or $800 depending on your vehicle. So unless you bring in a complaint like poor throttle response or misfire codes, they might not mention it. Behind the scenes, many shops will quietly inspect coil boots and plug wells during unrelated services, especially valve cover gasket replacements or oil changes. Pro tip, at 100K miles, replace all spark plugs. If you've had coil issues before, swap out the rest too. It prevents expensive tow bills and improves fuel efficiency. 5. Suspension check, the bounce test. Mechanics always do. Here's what experienced techs do that you probably never notice. They push down hard on each fender and observe the bounce. Why? Because after 100,000 miles, your shocks and struts are usually worn out, even if you don't feel it on smooth roads. You might not hear squeaking or knocking yet, but you're already losing cornering control, increasing tire wear, and making your ride unstable in emergencies. Shops often avoid pushing this unless they're doing an alignment or tire service, because suspension repairs are expensive and customers often delay them. Pro tip, watch for excessive body roll, nosediving during braking, or uneven tire wear. If it feels like you're driving a boat, your shocks are toast. 6. Engine mounts and transmission mounts. The hidden rattlers. You rarely hear about these, but they're critical. After 100,000 miles, the rubber in engine and transmission mounts starts cracking and softening. The result? Vibration, rough idles, clunking on acceleration, and even misaligned drivetrain components. Mechanics will often notice these during oil changes or exhaust work, but might not bring it up unless the vibration is extreme. Why? Because many customers don't understand what mounts do and don't want to spend $200 to $600 replacing something they can't see failing. But seasoned techs know that worn mounts reduce performance and can damage surrounding components like exhaust pipes, sensors, and even CV joints. Pro tip, if you feel vibration in the cabin at idle or hear a thud when shifting gears, ask about engine and transmission mounts. 7. Cooling system overhaul. Not just a radiator flush. Most drivers think flushing the coolant every 5 years is enough. But what mechanics really do after 100,000 miles is inspect the entire system: radiator, hoses, thermostat, water pump, and heater core. Because a failed water pump or stuck thermostat can blow your engine, especially in modern cars where overheating happens fast. Here's what mechanics don't always say. Rubber hoses swell internally, metal heater cores corrode, and thermostat sensors go out of range, long before they break completely. But because everything seems fine, many shops wait until it fails to mention it. Pro tip, replace your water pump, thermostat, and radiator hoses between 100K, 120K miles. It's a cheap insurance policy against overheating disasters. 8. CV axles and boots. The click. You should never ignore. You've probably heard it, a clicking sound when turning sharply. Most drivers dismiss it. Mechanics don't. Once your car hits 100,000 miles, the CV, constant velocity, joints, and axle boots are prime suspects for wear. These rubber boots hold grease and keep dirt out of the joints. If they crack, even slightly, they begin throwing grease all over the wheel well. The joint runs dry, dirt gets in, and the clicking begins. The big problem? Replacing a full CV axle after it fails costs 3x more than just catching a torn boot early. Most mechanics visually inspect CV boots during tire rotations or brake service. But unless you specifically ask about them, you might not hear a word until the axle fails and you're towed in on a flatbed. Pro tip, look under your vehicle near the inner and outer joints. If you see grease splatter or torn rubber, replace the boot immediately. If it clicks while turning, the axle is already failing. 9. Brake hardware and fluid. the silent killer of braking power. Most people know to check brake pads, but what they don't know is how much stopping power is lost through old brake fluid and rusty brake hardware. Here's what mechanics really do at 100,000 miles. They flush the brake fluid to remove moisture, which reduces boiling point and causes brake fade under hard stops. They also inspect caliper pins, anti-rattle clips, and backing plates that rust and seize over time. Yet, this isn't something most shops advertise unless you're in for a major brake job. If your brake pedal feels spongy or your car pulls to one side during braking, this could be why, and it's a safety hazard that's 100% preventable. Pro tip: flush brake fluid every 3 years. Ask your mechanic to clean and lube the caliper hardware with every pad change. It adds years to your braking system's life. 10. PCV valve. The tiny valve that wrecks engines. Silently, this tiny component rarely gets attention, but it plays a massive role in engine health. The PCV, positive crankcase ventilation, valve regulates internal engine pressure and keeps blow-by gases from building up inside the engine. At 100K miles, it often clogs, increasing pressure and causing oil leaks, reduced fuel economy, and even engine damage. The problem? Most cars don't set a check engine light when the PCV valve fails. And because it's a cheap plastic part buried under hoses, many shops don't bother to inspect it unless it's easily accessible. Experienced mechanics know to test or replace it during major services, but they often leave it off estimates unless prompted. Pro tip: replace your PCV valve around 80K, 100K miles. It usually costs under $50 and can prevent thousands in engine repairs. 11. Battery and charging system. The pre-failure zone. At 100,000 miles, your car's original battery is probably near the end of its life, even if it still starts. Here's what most mechanics know. Batteries begin losing capacity long before they fail. Once it dips below a certain voltage under load, your alternator starts overcompensating, adding stress to the entire electrical system. They'll quietly test it during regular service using a load tester. 4V or shows poor reserve. They know failure is near, but many won't bring it up unless you're stranded or asking about it. Pro tip: replace your battery around 4 to 5 years regardless of mileage. If it's original at 100K, test it or proactively replace it, especially before winter. 12. Cabin and engine air filters. The overlooked breathers. Here's something wild. A clogged engine air filter can reduce MPG by up to 10%, and a dirty cabin filter can strain your blower motor enough to burn it out. Mechanics routinely check both filters, but if they're not horrendous, they may leave them alone unless you ask. Yet, by 100,000 miles, they're likely overdue, especially if you live in dusty or urban environments. The engine air filter protects your combustion chamber. The cabin filter protects your lungs and your HVAC system. Both cost under $40 to replace and can make a noticeable difference in airflow, fuel economy, and longevity. Pro tip: change both every 15,000, 30,000 miles depending on your environment. And yes, this is something you can easily DIY. 13. Wheel bearings and hub assemblies. The subtle roar of failure. This is one most drivers miss completely. A worn wheel bearing doesn't always feel loose or unsafe, but it creates a subtle roar or humming that increases with speed. Mechanics are trained to catch these sounds during test drives, especially after 100K miles. But unless the noise is loud or you complain about vibrations, they might chalk it up to tire noise and let it slide. Why? Because replacing a wheel bearing hub assembly costs $200, $500 per wheel, and many customers don't notice the symptoms early. But left unchecked, It can lead to dangerous wheel wobble, ABS failure, and complete hub collapse. Pro tip: if you hear a low growl that gets louder with speed or while turning, ask for a wheel bearing inspection. Early diagnosis means a safer, quieter ride. Final thoughts. The 100,000-mile turning point. Here's the brutal truth. Once your car crosses the 100K threshold, it's not downhill, unless you treat it like it is. Mechanics have a mental checklist they go through once your odometer hits 6 figures. It's based on years of failures, comebacks, and experience, not just what the manual says. But unless you ask the right questions, you'll never know what's silently wearing out underneath your hood. If you want your car to hit 200,000 or even 300,000 miles without costing a fortune, start thinking like a mechanic. Proactive maintenance isn't about spending more, it's about spending smart. So what should you do now? Ask your mechanic directly about the timing system, transmission fluid, fuel system, and suspension. Request tests on your battery, PCV valve, and wheel bearings even if no light is on. Start keeping a preventive checklist, not just reacting to failures. And if this video helped you uncover something new, drop a comment below. Let us know your mileage milestone and share which item you're tackling first. Let's help each other drive smarter and longer.
So now you know, when your car crosses the 100,000-mile mark, it's not the end of the road. It's the moment when you, as a car owner, need to start thinking smarter. All those hidden wear points we just uncovered, cooling systems, CV axles, brakes, the PCV valve, the battery, and wheel bearings, aren't meant to scare you. They're meant to empower you. To help you stay one step ahead of expensive breakdowns. Because the truth is, almost any car can live well past 200,000, even 300,000 miles, if you maintain it the right way. And that's why Car Fix Free is here, to give you simple, practical, no-nonsense tips that cost you nothing to learn, but can save you thousands in repairs. But this isn't just our journey. It's also yours. And it's a journey we take together as a community of drivers and car lovers around the world. Backhand index pointing right. Do you have a question about your own car? Backhand index pointing right. Is there a maintenance job you're worried about? Backhand index pointing right, or maybe you've already experienced one of these hidden issues at 100,000 miles. Drop your questions, stories, or experiences in the comments below. I read them, I respond, and who knows, your question might even inspire our next video. And of course, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. That way, you'll always have the tools and knowledge to keep your car safe, reliable, and running strong. Remember this, knowledge is the most powerful tool in your toolbox. And here at Car Fix Free, we make sure you have it, free of charge, but priceless for your car. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, where together, we'll keep your car running longer, smarter, and better than ever.